Welcome back, you freaky bitches of Sikhistan. Today we got a pretty cool video for you. So when we were in Japan, Zach asked for the boys from Seeker Strength to give him some coaching, see what we would do with his snatch and his clean and jerk. Now, great video for a lot of people because a lot of people are taller lifters and we make the assumption that we need to change things based on the fact that we're tall. But when it comes to weightlifting, we're not actually changing a massive amount in our lifting. The absolute values will be different, but the relative values will remain basically the same. So there is several different things we changed in Zach's snatch. And the first thing we started with was his hip position in the start position. So if you watch a lot of Zach weightlifting, you'll see in the start position, he sits with his hips very, very low. Now, sometimes this can be referred to as the Hungarian start, where the barbell is very, very close to the lifter. Their hips are super low. Their torso is almost upright. And from there, they will initiate a large hip hinge and hopefully load the legs in the back. Now, this works for people like Sohrab Moradi or maybe some Asian lifters because the length of the arms and the torso and the legs are relatively similar. And when we move into that position, we don't have a very long back hanging out over the barbell and taking too much of the load. But for pretty much everyone else, and in those cases, some of those people who use a Hungarian start, I would argue that they would nearly be better with a more normal start. So what we're looking for in Zach's start position is hamstrings around parallel and shoulders slightly over the barbell. Now what this lets us do is it loads the legs in the back in a nice even fashion while also keeping the knees out of the way or putting the knees in a better position sooner and putting the shoulders in a better position sooner. So when Zach starts with this new start position here, you can see that he's hamstrings are approximately parallel, shoulders are in front of the bar already, because when the bar leaves the ground in the correct technical model, our shoulders move in front of the barbell. This facilitates the knees coming back out of the way. However, if the hips are too low, our knees are too far forward, our shoulders are too far behind the barbell, we're creating large joint movements, and this allows for a lot of inconsistencies. It allows for a lot of unnecessary or potentially incorrect loading of different joints when we don't want those to be loaded. So for Zach, the main things we chose, or one of the main things we focus on, and it's where we'd start with pretty much every lifter, is the start position, because the start position influences the rest of the lift. And then in the start position, we can see what changes it makes to the rest of the pull. So if we start with a start position, or if we start instead with the second pull, without addressing a poor start position, we may end up having a different second pull, wasting energy and mental capacity on that second pull when we could have fixed it with the first pull. So here we can see some later changes in the snatch, a little different session. Now, the second thing we started changing with Zach is no knees out. And this was very, very important, especially for someone like Zach, given how long his femurs are. If we push our knees out when we're pulling, and you can see Zach very aggressively moves his knees out as he snatches, what this actually does is artificially keeps the knees further forward than we would like them to and we would need them to be. If we push our knees out as we snatch, it keeps the knees to a position where it can't get as far back as when we're snatching. Now this is important because in weightlifting, we want our knees to come back towards us because we want the barbell center of mass and our center of mass to converge and be in a good balanced position. If the knees are too far forward, which can happen from too low hips, or if the knees are being pushed out too aggressively and kept out, the knees are too far forward, which ends up with the barbell's center of mass being slightly too far away from us, and then it does not allow a correct expression of power, it does not allow for good balance, and it does not allow for a more optimal bar pat. So one of the third things then on top of that snatching we worked on was with this new start position, with these knees back, Zach had to work a little bit harder on hanging out over the barbell. Now, onto the clean and jerk. So first of all, like in the snatch, one of the main things we changed in the start position was a higher hip position. Now in the clean, we're going to have a higher than hamstring parallel like we would in the snatch. Generally what we're looking for is shoulders over the barbell and knees not in front of the barbell. Usually this is hamstring approximately halfway between parallel and straight for a lot of people, but what you're looking for is hamstrings about 45 degrees, knees not too far in front of the barbell when the barbell is on the ground, and then shoulders either on top or slightly in front of the barbell. So that's the first position we changed. The second thing then we worked on was a much more aggressive pull under in the clean. So pulling under faster in the clean is the most important aspect of the clean, and I think it's something that's gotten lost a little bit even in international weightlifting. If we go back and look at the Bulgarians, the Greeks, a lot of the great lifters in the 80s and 90s, they trained so much and were experts at pulling under the barbell super aggressively, and some modern weightlifters are great at this, but some lifters rely a little bit too much on over pulling of the barbell. The clean is a heavier lift in absolute terms, and so we want to be as efficient as possible. So one of the main things we were working on with Zach after the start position was a much faster pull under. Now the third thing we were looking for is Zach to essentially stop bending his arms. And this is a common thought among taller lifters, is that because you have a longer body, you've got longer arms, you need to row or bend your arms to get the barbell up higher. But in the clean, we're not looking for maximum height, we're looking for a fast pull under. And now at the same time, as we pull under in the clean, what we're doing is aggressively pulling the barbell up, using our traps, our arms, and most of our upper body to turn the barbell over. But this happens at the exact same time as we pull under in the clean. So if you bend your arms too early, if you're bending from the floor or from the knee, what you're doing is really fucking up the timing of your ability to pull under. You'll see on some reps here, Zach is bending his arms less. On that last 140 kilos, you'll see his arms are much straighter and relaxed. And so this gives him an opportunity to pull under the barbell much smoother, and it gives that timing a lot better chance to pull under. So we get a better barbell speed, we get better timing between the barbell and our body, and when we meet the barbell, and we ensure then that we can be consistent, because the amount of arm bend may not always be consistent in the clean if we're bending our arms. Now, just for some specifics on Zach's case, Zach is a very talented athlete, and he made changes within 4 or 5 sets and retained them to a large extent, or retained them to 80% of that extent over a couple of days, and retained about 80% of the changes we were looking for at those moderate weights. For someone like Zach, he's not going to be able to make a technical change and then hit a big PB. There won't be any aha moments in the weights Zach is lifting, because Zach needs to do a big training block, initiate the training block with this better quality technique, do it for enough period of time that he then can hope, once he peaks, use this new technique that he's hopefully ingrained over a period of maybe 3-month training block, and then hopefully hit a PB by the end. I think something I've learned more and more, been more solidified in my coaching psyche, is that the technique is one of the most important aspects of weightlifting, and you having perfect technique is so incredibly important that it is synonymous with weightlifting is perfect technique. And now this is even doubly true for people who are less superhuman. You know, if we compare maybe Clarence's Snatch, for example, someone whose technique could be optimized further. But if you are someone who isn't Clarence, and the likelihood is you aren't if you're watching this, and you need the most optimal technique you can get, and thankfully technical models can be applied to all sorts of body types once we look for the correct things and you know how to apply them. So for Zach, he needs to train these technical model, and hopefully by the end of it he will have some nice technical progression on his heaviest lifts. Thanks for watching, and if there's anything else you want to see or any questions, just please leave them below and we'll try and get to them. In honor of this weightlifting technical video, today's video is brought to you by our 12-week Weightlifting 2.0 program. So this is the next evolution in our weightlifting program. It is 12 weeks in length, 4 sessions per week. It peaks both your snatch, your clean and jerk, and your squats by the end of the program. If you have a competition, plan this 13 weeks out, run the program for 12 weeks, and then on the 13th week, run your free peak week that you can get from us if you're running a weightlifting program.